welcome to our Comptroller Candidates Forum, co-sponsored by LittleAfrica News and One City Rising with our many community partners. So we just want to say thank you for joining us. Happy birthday. We greatly, greatly appreciate that you are here. And I don't know if you can see on the right side of your screen, there's a comment section. So I'm just asking folks to type in happy birthday to Mark in the comment section. So you'll get all the birthday wishes in our comment section.
That's a treat. Thank you.
So we're going to get started. Maimuna Davids above is going to be the timekeeper, and for each question you have 90 seconds to 2 minutes to answer the question, and we'll start with an opening remarks introduction. Please share a little bit about yourself, and then Maria will dive right into the question so that we get you right away with your family.
Wow, you're very kind. Mona, thank you. Maria, thank you. Moana, great to meet you. I'm running for the position of New York City Comptroller at a really challenging moment for New York City. We have the worst housing affordability crisis in New York City history. We have public safety challenges directly connected to a broken mental health system. And as Comptroller, I'll fight to take this on. This is a job I've been preparing for my entire life, since I graduated from college with a degree in physics and became a math and science teacher, bilingual. I speak Spanish, in the South Bronx in the 90s at a junior high school in District 7. I went on to found a community development financial institution, a credit union. It's called Neighborhood Trust Federal Credit Union. It's in Washington Heights, still going strong on 166 in St. Nick. It's made $100 million of small loans to people in the neighborhood, helping them do everything from buy a home computer to start a small business. I had the honor of serving in the city council for 8 years, representing West Harlem, Washington Heights, and a little bit of the West Side down to 96th Street. I had the honor of chairing the Parks Committee, the George Caucus, the Health Committee, and now, since 2022, serving as the borough president for Manhattan, where I've really made the affordability crisis my top priority. This is the record I'll take with me into the job of comptroller, to use the tools of the office to hold city government accountable, to invest in the kind of mental health system that we need to make the city safer, and to fight for New York throughout all 5 boroughs. I've been honored to partner with so many of you here tonight, and I'm excited for this conversation ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with a real softball question because we really like your approach to solving untreated mental illness. So I just want to ask you to just talk a little bit about your plans for that.
Sure. Look, I know that you, Maria, and everyone on this call has asked yourself, if you see a person struggling with severe mental illness on the subway, in the street, in the park, why is that person not getting the treatment they need? And the answer is, to understand the answer to that question, you really need to go to Manhattan's only state psychiatric hospital, which is on Randall's Island. And I've been there, been inside. You're going to be shocked to hear that facility is mostly empty. We had 4,000 patients at the peak at that hospital on Randall's Island. Again, the only state psychiatric hospital for our borough. It's now get down to a little over 400 patients. And the truth is that we have largely gotten out of the business of inpatient psychiatric care. And there's a similar story of a shortage of beds at Bellevue, which is for shorter term stays. And the result is it's very hard to get admitted for long-term inpatient care. And when a person struggling on the street or on the subway is brought into Bellevue in an involuntary removal, in 75% of the cases, they're going to be sent back out onto the street. The numbers at Bellevue are similarly shocking. We only have 19 beds in the extended care psychiatric unit at Bellevue. It's shocking considering the scale of the problem. So I have called for investments in expanding capacity, primarily at Randall's Island, but also we need more beds at Bellevue. We need more staffing for those beds because there's a shortage of psychiatric physicians, nurses, therapists, and more. But we can do these things. And I think we can solve this problem. And it will first and foremost help the New Yorkers who are struggling with mental illness. But it will also, I think, make New York City healthier for all of us. And this has been a top priority for me and will be if I'm lucky enough to be the comptroller.
Okay, great. So two related questions on the economy. And I've asked you this question at a forum I was at before, so you might have heard this, a variation of this question before. But, I think your approach to building more housing has been great, and you are definitely spearheading some of the most, largest movements to finally address the housing crisis that we've seen. But in addition to building more housing, what else do you, if you're elected to comptroller, what you can do to improve living standards for New Yorkers, raising wages, attracting new businesses to the state, and growing the economy? So what's your philosophy on economic growth, in addition to the affordable housing, which we've heard your, great plans for improving housing?
Look, everything I'm fighting for in government to make New York City healthier, fairer, safer for all requires us to have a strong and prosperous economy. Right. And when we do that, we have the tax receipts to help us provide after-school programs and well-maintained parks and social workers in schools. And yes, affordable housing. These are things I'm fighting for, but they're only possible if we have a strong and prosperous economy. And that requires us to be a place where companies want to locate and hire and expand, and where people at all levels of the income ladder want to live and raise a family. And to do that, you need, first of all, a city which is livable and that is healthy and that companies want to be based in. And I think you need a government and a city comptroller that are partners in telling people, we want you to invest here. We want you to grow here. We want you to hire here. And to do that, I'm willing to stand up and partner with the private sector to ensure we have that kind of investment. That's really who I've been throughout my career in government. And it's what I'm fighting for now. It's a vision of a growing and prosperous city where that prosperity is shared, where low-income people and working-class people share in the benefits, where we have good jobs at good wages with good benefits. We can do that if we have a strong and growing economy. And it's why I fought for a stronger tourist sector, a stronger life sciences sector, a stronger technology sector. Those things produce good jobs at good pay. And as comptroller, I'll fight to grow in that way for New York.
Yeah, I think it's really critical, and this is such an important election coming up, the primary in June, that we elect a mayor and a comptroller and leaders in city council who are going to fight for growth. We really are at this critical moment, and I think we're feeling it and seeing it every day. And we really need. I'm excited for the future if we can elect people who are on the same page on that. Yeah. So flipping to the pension fund. That's, of course, the biggest job of the comptroller, managing approximately $285 billion in assets as of February 2025. And, this is a little bit of a tough question. Our current comptroller has made a number of significant decisions that many view as politically motivated, but which might not be in the best interest of pensioners, important city workers who've worked their whole lives dedicated to the city and really need good, solid pensions. Can you describe your investment philosophy and how you would safeguard and promote the best returns for New York pensioners? Are there any bright lines in terms of investment? Any companies or industries you would favor versus companies or industries where you would decrease or even eliminate investment, maybe increase investment? And we're interested in hearing, whether you would support, certain disinvestments that the current comptroller has taken, positions he's taken.
Sure. Look, the most important job in managing the pension fund, actually maybe the most important job of the comptroller overall, is to protect the pensions of the approximately 750,000 current and future retirees who have served this city and have been promised a pension and need that protected. It's really critical. That has to guide every investment decision and every policy decision related to pensions. That also means looking at the long term. And I do believe, for example, when it comes to energy companies, that the more prudent long-term investment is in green technology, because I'm quite confident that's going to grow. And in fact, solar has been growing at an explosive rate. And I do think that traditional fossil fuel industries are not a safe long-term bet. And the previous comptrollers, several of them, have largely gotten us out of that. And I do think from a purely financial perspective, in addition to the climate impact, I do think that was a prudent move, because I think long-term, our national and global economy is going to move to greener and cleaner forms of energy. I will say that also I think part of a good pension fund strategy is a globally diversified portfolio. That it means investing in stocks and bonds in other countries, and been asked in a lot of forums about the question of Israel bonds. And I do think that Israel bonds should be a part of a diversified portfolio. They have been a rock solid investment for decades. They've never missed a payment. And I do think they deserve a place in New York City's pension fund portfolio.
Great to hear. Thank you for that. Another key responsibility of the Comptroller's Office is to ensure that municipal agencies are serving the needs of all New Yorkers, and this includes conducting performance and financial audits of all city agencies. And I've noticed that some controllers have been significantly more aggressive than others in ensuring these audits are done. So as comptroller, how would you prioritize which city agencies to audit in your first year of office, and why?
I'm going to be extremely activist on this front. The comptroller's job is to audit both for financial performance, but also for programmatic performance as well. We need to make sure that agencies are delivering for first for New Yorkers who need their services, but also for taxpayers. There's a very, very long list. I'm going to look at how the DOE identifies and serves kids with special needs. It is incredibly difficult to get evaluated for kids who are struggling, and then to get the services they need. This can, in some cases, end up costing the city much more money, because families end up needing private schools to meet their kids' needs. I am very concerned about the bureaucratic barriers to creating more affordable housing. If you've got a plot ready to go, a property ready to go, you've got the developer and the financing, you got to add 18 months to the timeline because of the delay in getting the paperwork approved at HPD, the loan documents and the term sheets, et cetera. So that means there's a family waiting somewhere for 18 months to get permanent housing. And that's going to be a process I'll audit. I also think there needs to be more oversight in the contracts to homeless service providers. We have a wide spectrum of quality of services. Some are doing really good and some are not. And I think there needs to be clear metrics and accountability for the performance of shelter operators. And I want to examine that process. Exactly how are we awarding those contracts? What are the criteria to evaluate success? On what basis are we renewing those contracts? I think that's another area that's ripe for auditing, and it'll be one of my priorities.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a big concern. We, have seen that budget double over the last couple of years and haven't seen any real increase in accountability or results. Yes. I think there are people in our group, our community partners, who are very interested in your position on the Department of Education in particular. So I just have two short education questions, and then I think we can wrap up so we can get you to your birthday dinner. So public school enrollment has dropped significantly over the last 5 years, while public school budget has increased or remained relatively flat year over year. And what would you do differently from the current controller that would ensure that money is being used efficiently and effectively to ensure, good performance? We also have very low, we don't have good outcomes for our kids. They're not reading, writing, and doing math at grade level. Like, what else can be done?
Yeah, look, I am very concerned about the drop of enrollment in New York City. it just makes everything harder in running the schools. If you want to know how bad it is, look at Chicago. They've had 20 years plus of declining enrollment, and it's really been a problem for the schools. I don't want that to be New York's future. There's definitely a lot we can do to make better use of our budget. We have over-reliance on outside consultants, over-concentration of staff at Tweed and the central offices, as opposed to being where it's most needed in schools and in classrooms and in pedagogical roles. I also want to say, related to the question of enrollment, that I do believe that every kid needs to be challenged to the best of their abilities. And I said that there's some kids who have learning challenges and need an accommodation for that, need appropriate instruction. And there's some kids who are really need accelerated learning, and that they should be offered that as well. And I think that we have pulled back too far from accelerated learning in the schools, and that we've probably lost students because of it. And I believe in the right balance where there's equal opportunity for everybody, where we have diverse classrooms, diverse schools, and where every kid gets challenged to the maximum of their ability. And that in some cases, for some kids, will need to mean accelerated instruction. And it's part of why I've stood up for specialized high schools. I'm alarmed at the fact that we have too few African American and Latino kids there, and I want to work hard to fix that. But I do believe that they're really important in the educational landscape of New York City, and that we need to strengthen them and find ways to help as many kids from as many diverse backgrounds get in there, but without eliminating that important piece of our educational landscape.
That's fantastic and super critical. I know there are members of our group that, and I personally also strongly support expanding our specialized high school network and making sure that kids who need accelerated learning get it, as well as kids who are struggling and need extra help. One final issue, transportation policy. Our group coalition member includes a very important e-vehicle safety alliance that has worked extremely hard to advocate for safer streets, for regulating, insuring, and licensing our electric vehicle, e-bikes. If you could just talk a little bit about your philosophy on that.
I don't know if that's Andrew Fine, but
Andrew's on the call. Andrew should still be here if he's still listening, and Janet.
Well, if not, to tell him I send my regards. I think we've got to do something to improve safety for e-vehicles on the street. And that includes multiple strategies, including creating some sort of licensing system where there is some accountability, particularly because the vast majority of people using e-bikes are delivering for apps. And so I think via the app company, there can be a system, maybe not unlike what you have on when you take an Uber. There's a system to hold drivers accountable there. Look, I think it can be done in a way that does not demonize immigrant workers, which are a wonderful and important part of the economy. And I celebrate their contribution to New York City. I think it can be paired with good physical upgrades on our streets that can separate out bicycles from pedestrians, from motor vehicle traffic, with good physical barriers between all three. But I do think that part of the menu of policies needs to be some sort of licensing system along the lines that I mentioned, probably building off this great opportunity to work with the app companies.
That's great. I'm losing all credibility with you because I'm going to ask one more question, and I'll make it really short.
No problem.
Only because we have a big coalition and they gave me questions, and I just want to cover it short.
Please, Maria. Yeah.
Several mayoral candidates have called for a rent freeze, but we also need to reduce the cost of providing housing. Property taxes, water and sewer, and utilities are some of the largest and fastest growing expenses housing providers face. As comptroller, do you have any plans for helping to reduce these costs and, helping many of our small property owners are immigrants, people who've done their life savings to build to provide housing? We just want to address that.
Absolutely. I am concerned about small property owners, and I've spoken to many, and they are extremely diverse, and many themselves were working class families not that long ago. And first of all, we have a lot of problems in our property tax system, which is extremely unfair, and in many neighborhoods is unfair to small property owners. That's something I really want to take on. And we have escalating costs. I don't know if you mentioned electricity and other energy costs, but they're rising fast. And I've opposed the very large rent increase that Con Ed is asking for. Also concerned about water rates. So absolutely, I want to fight to help rein in the rate of increase in these costs for small property owners. I have called for a rent freeze this year because I'm very, very concerned about affordability for tenants. But I do agree that it needs to be paired with finding ways to rein in costs and to make the city a better partner in general, bureaucratically and otherwise. And we did score, I think, a big victory in the reform of scaffolding laws. Local Law 11 now, it's going to be dramatically transformed thanks to great legislation in the city council. Shout out to Keith Powers, who led that together with Eric Botcher and the city council. But you probably know there's been a very fixed 5-year cycle for local law 11 inspections. And now the Department of Buildings is going to be able to extend that depending on how new the building is, depending on the kind of materials, depending on whether a major facade renovation was recently done. And it might be 6, 8, even up to 12 years. So that also, in addition to, I think, being prudent and good for the physical landscape and good for public safety, because scaffolding is bad for public safety and bad for economic development, I think it will also ease the financial burden on some property owners, including small property owners.
Definitely. Okay, I really am done. Thank you so much. Please feel, if you have a minute or two to close up, please do. And we want to get you out.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Maria.
Okay.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Moena, for great timekeeping. Thanks to all of you for having me on tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much and good luck. We'll
All
see
the
you.
best.
We'll see you on the early voting. I'll be out.
You got it. Good
Okay.
stuff. Thanks, guys.